Of the many types of boomer shooters out there, post-apocalyptic Czechoslovakia with brutalist architecture, 1930s alternative history noir with anthropomorphic mice, and descents into straight-up evil, it's still surprising that Warhammer 40,000 took so long to receive the same treatment. And while 2023's Boltgun felt like a one-off at the time, the success of Space Marine 2 has proven that people yearn for the 2,000-pound hulking instruments of destruction, purging any unwitting Xenos. Hence, we have Boltgun 2, Auroch Digital's sleeker, more detailed, yet still highly grungy, gory first-person shooter. After going hands-on with 2 missions and a demo on PC, I'm still undecided on where it could sit in the grand pantheon of essential FPSs. But one thing is for sure, as a 40k title, it can be a rip-roaring good time, as sublime when tearing through levels and laying waste to Nurgle's troops as it is harrowing on the higher difficulties. So, let's break down 5 things you should know about the demo, and whether Boltgun 2 is worth looking into when it launches this year for PC, Xbox Series X and S, and PS5. Grimdark Dive. Something that the original received extensive praise for is the atmosphere. Yes, the retro aesthetic with its sprites ranging from the gorgeously animated enemies, if you take a second to notice before giving them to pieces, to the weapon reloads. It all remains as impeccable as ever. The environments also strike that ideal balance between catering to the Warhammer 40k grimdark palette while balancing the open areas where ranged duels play out with its more claustrophobic corridors. Welcome to the jungle, as they say, sans fun and games, with constricted pathways and mildly concealed enemies in its extensive vegetation. But above all else, the mood is unmistakably 40k, the feeling of indestructibility but also oppression, as if terrifying odds await at almost any turn. You're bolstered by the heavy movement and thickest weaponry while feeling like death could arrive in a heartbeat. There's even some occasional levity, like your floating companion detecting 37 breaches of uniform regulations when happening upon a bunch of allies' corpses. Quaint, and thankfully not breaking the overall tone. Delivering destruction in swipes and stabs. Of course, being able to actually destroy everything would help with the feeling, and Boltgun 2 as you covered, whether it's as the returning Space Marine or the new Battle Sister. Movement possesses a momentum of sorts that can take a bit of getting used to, both as Malum Cato and Naira Vareth. Jumping also still feels like a bait for the former as opposed to simply charging through and chainsawing the first thing that you see. It can also feel a little off when you can't activate movement abilities mid-air, but it's not a deal breaker, and it helps maintain the sense of danger. The weapons feel extremely robust. The titular Boltgun is explosively devastating with each shot, while the shotgun feels like a cannon with each trigger pull. Things only heat up further with the heavy bolter, which you hold down to unleash a stream of lead. But while Malum is about charging into the fray, relying on his regenerative abilities to sustain him from near death, Naira Vareth leans more into agility. Not that she can't get aggressive when the opportunity presents itself. Her charged sword lunges find a fine line between all or nothing, and a fairy fencer going from one target to the next in rapid, sometimes uncontrollable succession. Her main abilities involve a slide for repositioning, which turns into a leap and mid-air suspension for a useful vantage point, and a melt-a-bomb, which can be charged to unleash a massive explosion, and provide a valuable few seconds via time stop to properly position your throw. That, she also has unique weapons, including a powerful stake thrower and a flamer, perfect for those annoying Nurglings, is just the icing on top. Warranted aggression. Whether you've played the original or not, there's no denying that Boltgun 2 feels unique for a boomer shooter. There's no ripping and tearing per se, though it's very much possible to simply run down enemies and unload your ammo into their carcasses. However, there are plenty of occasions where it's advisable to hang back, assess the situation and pick off threats, including grenade throwers and poisonous toads, from afar. The opening jungle is especially notable in slowing down your pace as Malum. Since the swamp can poison you, don't even get me started on the lingering toxic projectiles on the ground. On the contrary, with the mountain facility offering more than a few circumstances where enemies have the high ground, it's often advised to just rush into the building of choice and clean house. Perfect for those who don't have the patience for long-range battles. Alerting the Horde. Let's be real though, one of the power fantasies of Warhammer 40k is fighting from underneath against relentless hordes, surviving against all odds, even as your allies perish. Boltgun 2 packs a handful of those set-piece instances, and they're thankfully not overdone. Extracting from the jungle with the rest of Death Corps, for example, invites a shambling yet massive wave of poxwalkers. It's not long before the feeble attempt to break them from afar delves into outright chaos. Another moment like this occurs in the mountains when dealing with Khorne's mooks on a bridge. Except, you have the benefit of shooting out the glass from beneath, sending them plummeting into the abyss. One wrong step though, and you could just as easily join them. Before spawning back on top, that is. Not quite as overwhelming, but those fleshhounds, juggernauts, and blood crushers are great at hunting you down. Navigation guide and difficulty options. Unfortunately, there wasn't the opportunity to try out the branching levels, though I somehow managed to miss the flamer on one run. And Boltgun 2 doesn't offer a map, which is perfectly fine because the navigation guide added in the original is available from launch itself. Simply hit N on PC and you'll receive a clear objective marker and a dotted path on where to go next. Granted, navigating the sequel's environments didn't feel all that difficult. I was practically soaring through the jungle as Naira on a second playthrough. But on those occasions where you just want to get on with the fight rather than take in the sights, it is very much welcome. 4 difficulty options are available: low, medium, hard, and exterminatus, with the latter 2 upping the enemy count and damage taken. It's where some of the nagging issues with movement can become a bit exasperated, but it's still an absolute thrill and fun test of your knowledge on enemy placements. Early conclusion. As someone who enjoyed but didn't outright love the original, Warhammer 40,000 Boltgun 2 feels like a step up in all the right ways. It's still very distinct with its gameplay flavor, and those expecting the standard boomer shooter experience may take a bit to acclimate. I'm keen on really diving into the branching campaign, and just how different playthroughs can feel as a result. However, between the 2 playstyles and distinct weapons, the solid level design, and fantastic pixel art, Boltgun 2 is shaping up to be a bloody, well-paced, compelling journey of a systemic extermination. Hey, did you know that we at Gaming Bolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.